Welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barjo, and do we have a chock-full episode of games for you this week?
Why, yes we do. We return to Albion and put the world to rights in Fable 3.
We shoot some hoops in not one, but two basketball games, NBA Jam and NBA 2K11. Plus Costume Quest. But first, can you guess the game for this week? So many games, go in the news.
Go, 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 go!
I'm running!
Faster!
I can't run!
Good game.
Square Enix has sent a cease and desist letter to a New Zealand man ordering him to stop working on an open source version of Carmageddon. Now a 13-year-old game, Carmageddon is no longer made or sold by Square Enix, but the company isn't taking any chances, asserting that this lone coder's efforts are causing substantial damage to the value of Square Enix's copyrights. Yet the creator of Catastrophe will not be cowed. The defiant hobbyist has renamed his fan project OpenC1 and declared that he will not back down, pointing out that the code he's written for OpenC1 is his own intellectual property. And while we're splitting hairs, the original Carmageddon was inspired by the movie Death Race 2000. The developer couldn't get the rights to the movie, but went ahead and made the game anyway. The ongoing legal battle between Interplay and Bethesda over the rights to Fallout continues. It's now come to light that Interplay originally offered to sell the complete rights to the Fallout franchise, but Bethesda balked at the asking price, $50 million US. Bethesda opted to pay a lower price to just the rights to make standalone console and PC games, and left the MMO rights with Interplay. But now that the Fallout franchise is a blockbuster success, Bethesda is trying to wrest those MMO rights for itself. Interplay recently announced that Fallout Online is on track for a late 2012 release. Hopefully by then, the Fallout will have settled. Minecraft.net, the home of the cult hit Minecraft, has been the target of repeated distributed denial of service attacks. While the culprit or culprits have yet to be brought to justice, he or they have claimed to be members of Anonymous, the global counterculture network that has repeatedly targeted the Church of Scientology. Whoever they are, they claim to be attacking the livelihood of code wizard and entrepreneur Marcus Notch Pearson for the heinous crime of not updating his game fast enough. Of course, the more time Notch sinks into fixing his website, the less time he has to update his game. Finally, a case of art imitates life. Albert Ng, a concept artist based in Los Angeles, recently caused a worldwide confusion by publishing a series of painted and rendered building interiors from what he labelled Uncharted 3 World of Deceit on his personal blog, along with a game logo. The artwork was so convincing that the French branch of Amazon.com decided that it was all the proof it needed to list Uncharted 3 in the Coming Soon section to its web store. Just one small problem, the game doesn't exist. Ng says he created the images for an architecture class, and they have nothing to do with the real Uncharted 3, which may or may not be in development at Naughty Dog.
Good game.
It's been ages since I've played a basketball game, Hex, but with the release of NBA Jam and NBA 2K11, we thought it apt to shoot some hoops. First up, NBA Jam.
Incoming. Boom shakalaka.
NBA Jam is a classic, and it has all the commentary, dunks, and animations from the original games. The PS3 and 360 versions will be out later this year, but we've been having a go of the Wii version, and it looks and sounds pretty impressive, especially when going for those fantastical dunks.
Let's go. Watch out! This guy's a home wrecker!
Yeah, some of the passing animations are a little bit gimpy, but it's kind of forgiving on purpose, so you can just have fun with the game. The updated physics make all the models tumble into each other in a glorious mess. It takes quite a while to master the controls, especially if you want to get your spins and fakes going.
Swipes it away! He has got the hot hand!
There are a few controller options. My favorite is definitely the classic controller, but you can also use the nunchuck and the Wiimote, and use the nunchuck to jump and shoot, and also to slam down for a more powerful dunk. But I found it was so sensitive, Hex, that I'd bump it all the time and just jump randomly.
Yeah, you do get a bit of a sore hand from all the waggling, but it's better than using the Wiimote turned sideways like an old NES controller. It's just so hard to hit the turbo, and I just don't know why they don't let you use the GameCube controller. I mean, that's awesome.
Madness.
It's baffling.
Not much time. Whap, whap.
There's a bunch of modes, from classic campaign to domination to a remix mode with power-ups and new camera angles. You can unlock mascots as well as the Democrat and Republican parties.
George W. Bush with the grab. Whoop, slams it in.
But some more crazy stuff would have been nice. Dunking is so exciting though, Hex, especially when you're on fire.
Whoop. Finishes with some flair. And that's an understatement.
And you can also do fake dunks or pass it to your teammate who begins a leap, which makes for some fun tactics.
Looked like a Thanksgiving turkey. He just got his pocket picked. To Lewis. Yes.
There's no online in the Wii version though, and that really sucks, but there will be in the HD version, so it might be worth waiting for those. But even so, I had a great time here. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It's accessible, but it does take a while to unlock everything. But I did like all the challenges though. Sometimes the winner comes down to the last shot, especially if the AI starts to ramp up the aggression in the last minute of play if they're losing it. It feels mean, but it's actually quite thrilling.
Stoudemire slams it home.
It's 7.5 from me. Now, on to NBA 2K11.
It's what you've been waiting for.
Even if you know nothing about basketball, you know who Michael Jordan is. So it's no wonder that 2K Sports have decided to focus their latest NBA title around arguably the greatest basketball player of all time.
Are you ready?
Before you even blink, the game throws you immediately into the action, playing the finals with the Bulls, battling Magic Johnson himself on the court.
Hello, everyone. This is Kevin Harlan alongside Clark Kellogg, and we welcome you to the opening game of the 1991 NBA Finals.
How do you stop Jordan from pouring in basket after basket?
If you've left the series for a while, you'll scramble to remember just where everything goes.
You know, I'm enjoying sports games more and more, Badge, especially in multiplayer, but I have to say, this is probably the most impressive sports game I've ever seen. It's exceptionally detailed and certainly not for the faint-hearted. As someone who doesn't really follow basketball, some more tutorial options would have been nice, but let's be honest, that's not what this game was designed for. This is a game for serious basketball fans.
Yeah, if you're after some arcadey casual fun, then you don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. Or a pole of any length. What 2K11 promises here is the most stunning realism and top commentary and smart AI that'll constantly keep you on your toes. The players not only look like their real-life counterparts, but they're all tricked out with stats to suit too, so if you know your stuff, you'll feel legitimately nervous when you come up against a top player. If you don't and you get unexpectedly bulldozed by some tank of a dude, well, you know why.
I struggled a little bit with all the constant fouls until I went into the settings and noobed it slightly.
Just how noob are we talking here?
Yeah, just slightly, and it became a much more impressive game after that. So if you need to ease yourself into the real-life basketball rules, you can ease off on some of the fouls and make it a bit easier to get a shot in the bucket, but still keep it challenging.
And here's our test. Blake for 3, and that is good.
Way to distribute the basketball.
Just like NBA Jam, the most fun here is in the multiplayer, and it's just so exciting, Hex, when you ninja that ball and make a mad dash to the other end of the court, only to score a triumphant dunk.
Yeah, but you kept getting fouled for a reach-in or whatever every time you tried to steal the ball, and I had to keep taking a million two-pointers.
No glory unless you go for the steal.
Yeah, whatever.
That one is off.
I managed to score a few impressive dunks every now and again, but getting a clear line to sprint at the net is a rare opportunity. There are various dribbling, dunking and shooting drill modes that you can try out and get your skills up if you're serious about that.
One of the hardcorest of hardcore modes that was hardcore introduced is the addition of My Player. In My Player, you can design and customize your very own noob basketballer and literally start from your player's career out in college basketball, playing through crappy games until you eventually get good enough and get picked up by the NBA. This is an agonizingly slow process, but I guess this game is trying to simulate real life, so from that perspective, it's dead on.
I feel like we haven't even begun to touch on the features of this game, Barjo. The menus are like a library of team and game customization options, and it really is amazing how much work has gone into this game.
Bottom line though, this is for true basketball fans. There's even a Michael Jordan challenge mode where you can go back and try to replicate 10 of his most legendary matches. It's incredibly slick. I'm giving it 9 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I think if you're after some kind of a casual b-ball experience where you can shoot hoops with some friends, then I'd steer clear of this because it really doesn't cater to that kind of game. You're better off choosing something more accessible like NBA Jam. You'll spend so much time just customizing in this game because there's so many options to do so, and it really felt like a professional experience. So I'm giving it 9 out of 10 as well.
If I couldn't be a game developer and I couldn't be an astronaut, I'm sure I would be, and I even still sort of fancy myself as, an explorer. I enjoy exploring the reality in which we live. And so when I use the word explorer, I mean more than canoeing down the jungles or riding on elephants through safari or whatever that might be, although those are also great fun. I find exploration of science, history, virtual worlds, and the physical world that we live in to all be part of the same spirit of exploration, and really what passionately drives me to get up in the day. And I also think that's precisely what informs my creative output. And I think I go back to the Tolkien school of research and exploration that I find to be really important to be able to do truly original work.
From Double Fine, the house that brought us Brutal Legend and Psychonauts, comes their first foray into developing for the downloadable space. Costume Quest, a cutesy RPG all about that most American of festivities, Halloween.
You get to play as either the son, Reynold, or daughter, Ren, as you head out for a bit of trick-or-treating. That is until monsters kidnap your brother or sister, depending on who you pick to play as. And then the quest is on to save him, or her, from becoming monster munchies.
It's simple, but just deep enough to be an engaging little RPG. Each costume you find transforms once you go into battle, and it's very exciting the first time that little robot costume turns into a 20-story rocket-firing transformer.
And by exploring the world and trick-or-treating or completing quests, you'll earn candy, which can then be used to buy battle cards, which give your characters certain boosts in combat, like extra health or a special attack.
Hex, it's been a while since turn-based RPG combat such as Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest has really excited me, but this is just pure fun. The battles are short and satisfying, and they're over in about 3 or 4 turns, and each attack or defense move brings up a little quick time event that will give you some bonus damage or protection. It keeps you engaged in the battles rather than just one-button combat watching numbers fly off people's heads.
The costumes are quirky and varied enough too to keep things interesting, and some are better suited to attack or defense, so you really need to choose what your party is wearing quite carefully. I particularly like the French fry costume.
The art has that now distinctive Double Fine look to it, which gives everything personality, and it feels like you're playing in a child's imagination. There's no voice acting, it's all text bubbles, which sometimes went a little bit too fast for me to read properly, and you can't skip through them all.
The writing's solid though, nothing laugh out loud funny, but I did chuckle a few times. All in all, it's a solid little quest. It's very short though at 2 to 3 hours, and there's not really much incentive for a second playthrough, so I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I think if it had more boss fights, that would have lengthened the game and made it a bit more fun, but for me it's a bit of a turning point, Hex. It's rekindled my love for this turn-based RPG combat that had been a bit stale for a while, so I'm giving it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Well, our competition to win Brian, our Dead Rising 2 zombie, has now closed.
Yes, and a big thank you to everyone who entered. There's now well over 100 extra zombie films in the world, and I think we can all agree that's a good thing.
Absolutely. You can watch them all on our Good Game Competition YouTube channel and leave a comment on your favourites. The number of views won't determine the winner, but it will be taken into account.
Yes, next week we will be announcing the winner and playing the winning video on the show. But for now, here are some of our favourites.
Holy crap.
Good game.
Check it out.
What is that?
Batman.
It doesn't even look like
Batman
Batman.
tattoo.
That's.
He's got scrunch when I put the water on. I don't think I took it.
It looks like something a bit rude.
It's fantastic. Time to ask Good Game, the segment where we take viewer questions and answer them to the best of our abilities.
This week we have a question from Keenan in Newman, Western Australia.
That laptop's not even on.
Shut up.
On Monster Hunter Try, how do you kill the Kurapeko in the Sandy Plains? I've tried 1,000 times and I can't kill him. Is it because of the Jaggy, Jaggier, and the Great Jaggy? Please help me.
Thanks for writing in, Keenan, and good on you for having a go at one of the hardest games on the Wii. By the time you faced a Kurapeko, you've reached the point in Tri where you can't treat the game like a simple beat-em-up anymore. You have to think strategically.
That means learning the monster's moves so you know when to evade and when to strike. For instance, when the Kurapeko does his rapid fire, launching fireball attacks, you can avoid them by keeping to his sides and rear. You have 50 minutes on the clock, so don't be afraid to take your time and observe his behaviour. You'll soon learn his moves.
Minions like the Jaggy and the Jaggy are stupid and do little damage. You don't need to kill them, so it's really up to you if you want to wipe them out before focusing on the big boss. If the Kurapeko summons another monster to the area, like the Great Jaggy, then you can hit it with a dung bomb to make it run away. You can turn the Kurapeko's dirty tricks to your advantage too. If he does one of his little buff dances, you can hit his inflating neck sack to steal that buff for yourself.
If only life was so simple. His head and neck are the weak points, by the way. If you're still having trouble, there are plenty of guides and forums online and tips and stacks of instructional videos on YouTube.
Above all, just keep trying. Monster Hunter Tri is tough, but if you stick with it, you'll also find it's one of the most rewarding games. Well, that's Ask Good Game done for another week. You need to wash that off. Like now.
I've got a dancing buff.
Really?
You want to see it?
No.
Good game.
I've seen what must be done, and nothing will stand in my way. We will be greater, and we will be stronger, no matter what sacrifices we must make. This is my Albion, and I will see it destroyed before I surrender it.
2 years since our last frolic in the fantasy world of Albion, we have returned with Peter Molyneux's Fable 3. If you played Fable 2, the game will make reference to your previous character, and this time you'll play as their son or daughter, the Prince or Princess of Albion.
But now your brother Logan is king, and his tyrannical rule has the people in a state of despair. So it's up to you to leave your royal life behind and get a group of people together to start a revolution.
This kingdom needs a new leader. It needs a hero.
Heck, nothing sets up an adventure like escaping a castle through dark tunnels in the middle of a stormy and rainy night. Only would have been better if Patrick Stewart was there.
Well, it's a time-honoured fantasy tradition, having the royal leave the castle life to change the kingdom for the better, but it works really well here, especially as a polar opposite to how you began life in Fable 2. Now, a few key changes have been made to make Fable a smoother, more accessible game. First of all, the lack of a menu system may have you a little bit confused when you hit start, because it's lacking in any kind of regular menu as such.
Yes, now it keeps you in the game universe as much as possible, rather than scrolling through lists and options, which I found a bit weird at first, but actually works quite well. Hitting start will transport you to The Sanctuary, a pimped out hideaway that boasts several rooms to house your trophies, weapons, magical gadgets, and a great big girly wardrobe where you can store all your many outfits.
Oh, to have a sanctuary like that in real life, Barjo. A room for my clothes and my swords, and John Cleese as my butler.
Ah, splendid choice. I'm sure Master Elliot will approve.
There's a standout voice cast here too, from everyone from Jonathan Ross to Stephen Fry and Simon Pegg, and all the characters have personality to them.
There are some ground rules. Master Reaver insists that nobody carries weapons into the ballroom.
And I like that your own character had a voice this time around too.
Your sanctuary is also where you access the world map, and you can fast travel to any location or access your quest list from here. As you go running errands for people and completing various quests, you'll visit some beautiful locations, deserts, forests and temples, and you'll be rewarded with guild seals. You use these to unlock specific chests on your road to rule, and that's how you'll level your character's abilities and upgrade your weapon in the game. Seals take time to gain though, so you'll have to be selective in which chests you choose first. I thought the missions were varied and interesting too. My absolute favourite was one where I met a bunch of tabletop RPGers, and they actually shrunk me down into their game and made me act out their D&D style adventure.
The hero kisses the princess.
Two girls kissing? Bit of a cliche.
An incredibly hot cliche.
I think there's a lot of little comedic touches in this game that'll make people just keep coming back to it, you know. It's a wonderful world, Albion, to be in. It's not without its flaws though. Character animations are a bit sloppy, and also when you're up close, a lot of the animations and movement have this weird ghosting blurriness to it. That wasn't the previous game, but it's a shame that didn't get any better. Also, they've made the combat more streamlined now, but that just made it boring. I just found all the combat really dull.
Oh, I know. You know, when we interviewed the developer from Lionhead, one of the most pressing questions I had was, have you improved the combat from Fable 2? And she was like, yeah, we've actually made all the melee one button. And my heart just sank, you know?
Thanks. It works, it's just too basic. X is for attack, block, and you hold it for a heavy attack. Y for ranged, B for spells, and A to roll. There's very little thought required in the combat, so you can pretty much spam anything and win a fight without any issues.
I know, I just feel like there are wasted buttons on the controller there. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything overly complicated, but how hard is it to just combine one of the triggers with any other button on the controller to make you think about the way you're going to go into a fight a little bit more?
Plus, you don't die in Fable 3, you just lose progress to your next guild seal, and that means that none of the combat has any threat to it.
Yeah, you feel invincible, so you kind of just don't care.
Yeah, the way that magic has been handled in the game has been improved though. This time you wear magical gauntlets that will allow you to combine up to 2 spells at once. Because you can pop back to your sentry whenever you want and swap and change, you're not really restricted, and it worked well. My favourite was Ice Storm, very cool.
Yeah, and combining them looks really impressive. Fire and ice work really well together, or ice and electricity, and plus there are some really great finishing moves, even if they are easy to pull off because, again, you're just pressing the one button. I felt the enemies were really varied though, which was nice. I had some good old-fashioned shootouts with soldiers and brigands, eviscerated ghosts and sand ninjas, and smashing skellies is always satisfying.
There is of course the life sim element to Fable where you can marry NPCs and buy and rent out property and also have children. You can also do this with co-op online or offline. Local co-op still has that fixed camera, which does suck, but the online co-op apparently has been fixed, and that's good because that was my biggest complaint about the previous game. If you get married in co-op and then you get a divorce, you split your bank account 50-50. Ouch.
I was gonna ask you to marry me, but I'd already had like 3 weddings and my bank account just couldn't handle it.
It's probably for the best.
Marriage is expensive, man. I married one chick, divorced her, then married another dude, then married my maid from the castle who promptly divorced me after I spent 10 grand on a fancy wedding because she found out I was already married to someone else.
This marriage is over.
If you need to get some more cash, you can pawn items that you pick up from treasure chests or get a job. Now, these job minigames were possibly the most frustrating part about Fable 2, and I think many will be outraged that they've made a return. They have been made somewhat less tedious though, but still, you'll spend a lot of time just making pies.
Ooh, that's a nice pie.
I'll keep one for myself. I love how fast they can make the pies. When you start getting it up, when you get their multiplier goes like pie, pie, pie. Who can make pies that fast? It's not realistic.
You know what though, you don't really need to work that much. I mean, you get money when you go out questing and from treasure chests, and if you're smart, you'll invest in property early on, which you can rent out and generate income that way. You still have your trusty dog, of course, who'll lead you to dig spots for treasure. I'm really glad that the dog was one thing they didn't mess with at all. Having dog companions in games that help you kill people and find treasure are just great.
I enjoyed the return of the chicken kicking.
Ah yes, the poor chickens never stood a chance.
Throughout the main storyline, you'll make various promises to the leaders of each village that you can decide to keep once you've achieved your goal of overthrowing Logan. As always with Fable games, the choices you make will be represented by the world around you, whether you go down that good or evil path. Although here it's not really physically represented on the character as much, there's no horns or halos.
It's an interesting choice they've made because it's almost as if the game is split into 2 parts. The first half you'll spend raising your rebellion, and then in the second half you're crowned king or queen of Albion and you have to run the country. Running a country is hard, and all those promises you've made, well, they're not that easy to keep.
Of course, if you went the evil path, you could just screw everyone over, but everything has a consequence. Everything has pros and cons, and that's part of the brilliance of Fable. You know, you really have that choice and you have those consequences play out. I did miss having horns though, Hex.
Yeah, I tried to take the path of good, but it's just so hard when you're always constantly helping everybody out and being charitable, and then suddenly I just didn't really have that much money and my kingdom was falling apart. So at one point I kicked out all these orphans and turned their building into a brothel.
It is time Bowerstone had its first whorehouse.
Riva Industries is pleased to present the House of Requited Affection.
It's not that bad. I got some sweet cash out of it, which I put into the kingdom treasury, but all the villagers hated me afterwards. I got booed in the streets.
You're going to video game hell. You can spend so much time in Fable just interacting with the NPCs. They'll constantly chat to you, and I love how the reactions change based on the things you've done and the decisions you've made in the game. Chat to them for long enough and they'll send you out on missions so you can earn more guild seals. Some missions will give you certain disguises to wear and everything is customizable.
Ah, yes, very mercenary indeed.
I think they've done a good job of fleshing out the world of Albion, and you get more of an idea of how big the world is and where everything goes with the new map interface. Hex, I really enjoyed Fable 2, and even though a lot is better this time around, the oversimplified combat just ruined it for me. It just wasn't challenging enough, so I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, I agree. The combat was my biggest issue as well, and let's face it, that's a big part of the game. But I'm a fan of the series, you know, and I still couldn't put it down. I think the key to Fable is to really take your time and enjoy it, because if you just plow through the main storyline, it can all be over relatively quickly. But it's worth it to go on those extra quests and gain the guild seals to try and max your abilities first. I played through this quicker than I would have liked because I wanted to finish it for the review, but now I kind of want to go back and play through it again and make different decisions so I can see those changes. It's far from perfect, but I still got wonderfully lost in it nonetheless, so I'm giving it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I'm in the mood for love, dear.
Good game.
So did you guess the game for this week? It was Turmoil, an old arcade shooter for the Atari 2600 that was programmed by one Mark Turmel, the man who would go on to design the original NBA Jam.
Well, sadly, we have to say goodbye for another week, but we shall be back to ride the wave of new game releases.
Including Vanquish, The Force Unleashed 2, and God of War, The Ghost of Sparta.
And we'll be screening the winning entry in our Make Your Own Zombie video competition and saying a fond farewell to Brian.
Oh, well, just a reminder too that there's heaps of extra video content on our websites, lots of stuff that we couldn't squeeze into the show. And while you're there, you can drop by the forums and leave a comment about the show or on gaming in general. Till next time, gamers, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Barjo out.
How's he coming with his dress? You got the staple gun and the...
I thought you were doing it.
No.
Nah, just kidding. I've been working on it day and night.
Oh.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
I can't wait to see it.
It's messed up.